The forest was quiet that night, almost too quiet. The human traveler, Daniel, had walked all day through the alien jungle. His boots were muddy, his clothes dusty, and his body begged for rest. Finally, he found a small clearing beside a wide tree with glowing leaves. It seemed like a safe spot to stop. He dropped his pack, stretched his sore arms, and whispered to himself, "Here. This will do." Daniel spread out his sleeping mat on the soft ground. He checked the trees around, him listening carefully. No animals, no strange movements, just the endless hum of insects hidden in the shadows. Satisfied, he left his mat for a moment to gather some wood for a fire. The jungle was dark and full of strange noises, but Daniel had learned not to show fear. When he returned, something was wrong. His sleeping spot was no longer empty. There, curled up tightly on the mat, was a small figure. At first, Daniel thought it was some animal, maybe one of the forest's clever predators pretending to sleep. But as he came closer, he froze. It was not an animal. It was a girl. She was tiny, with thin arms and legs, her skin faintly glowing in the moonlight. Her hair shimmered silver blue, like strands of starlight, and her breathing was soft and slow, as if she belonged here more than the trees themselves. Her clothes were torn, ragged pieces that barely covered her small frame. She looked fragile, breakable. Daniel's first thought was to wake her, to demand an explanation. But then he noticed something else. Scars. Even in the dim light, he could see marks across her wrists, faint but cruel. Shackles, maybe. Chains. She had not wandered here for fun. He whispered sharply, "Hey, this is my spot. Get up." The girl stirred, her ears twitching slightly. Yes, pointed ears, not human. Her eyes opened slowly. They were not normal eyes at all, but wide orbs glowing faint violet. For a moment she looked straight at him. Daniel expected fear. He expected her to scream, to run. But she did something else. Without a word, the tiny, alien girl reached out with her small hand and tugged at his arm. Her grip was weak, trembling, but she pulled him closer. Then she shifted, pressing herself against his chest as if he were not a stranger at all, but someone she had known forever. Daniel froze. His heart pounded hard. "What the hell?" he muttered under his breath. The girl whispered, so soft he almost missed it. "Warm. Don't leave." Her voice was broken, like she had not spoken for days. Daniel didn't know what to do. She was an alien, a child, and clearly lost. But why wasn't she afraid of him? Every other alien he had met treated humans with suspicion, or worse. Yet this girl clung to him like he was her only hope. He tried gently to push her away. "Listen, kid, you can't stay here. I don't even know who you are." But she only held tighter, burying her face against his chest. For someone so small, her grip felt desperate, like she believed letting go meant the end of her life. Daniel sighed, his head leaning back against the tree. "Great, just great. Of all the things in this cursed jungle, I get an alien girl stealing my bed." He sat there for a long moment, not sure what to do. His soldier's training told him to stay alert, to move her aside, to avoid strange traps. Maybe she was bait. Maybe hunters were watching from the trees, waiting for him to lower his guard. He scanned the shadows carefully, but nothing moved. No eyes glowed back. No sound came except the slow, steady breath of the girl pressed against him. Finally, he gave up fighting her grip. He adjusted his mat and leaned back. The fire crackled faintly, sending sparks into the sky. The girl curled tighter, her tiny hands clutching his sleeve. Daniel had fought monsters, faced war machines, and crossed deserts filled with death. But this was stranger than all of it. As the night deepened, the human felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Responsibility. This girl was not just trespassing, she was hiding, running from something, and whatever that was, it was dangerous. Daniel whispered to himself, his voice low. "What are you running from, little one?" The girl didn't answer. She was already asleep again, her small body trembling once before falling still. Daniel stared into the fire, his mind racing. Sleep did not come easily for him. He kept one hand on his knife, eyes half open, ears straining for any sound from the forest. But inside he knew this was the beginning of something larger. The alien girl had chosen his spot, his warmth, and his presence. She had pulled him close without fear, and Daniel, against his own judgment, had allowed her to stay. Above them, hidden in the darkness of the high branches, something moved. A faint crack of wood echoed, too sharp to be the wind. Daniel's eyes narrowed. He stayed still, not wanting to wake her, but his hand tightened on his knife. Someone, or something, was watching, and that meant the night was far from over. The morning came slowly, with pale sunlight pushing through the thick jungle canopy. Birds with crystal wings sang strange calls. The air was damp, heavy with mist. Daniel blinked awake, stiff from sitting against the tree all night. His knife was still in his hand, and the tiny alien girl was still curled against him, breathing softly like nothing in the world could harm her. For a long moment he just stared at her. The way she clung to his sleeve even in sleep made his chest feel heavy. He had expected her to wake in fear, maybe scream at the sight of a human, but she hadn't. Instead, she had pulled him closer, like he was her shield. Daniel whispered, "You're not afraid of me, why?" The girl stirred, her violet eyes opening slowly. She blinked at the morning light, then at him. Instead of panic, she gave the faintest smile, weak but real. "You're warm," she said simply. Her voice was still raspy but clearer than last night. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "That's it? Warm?" She nodded, hugging herself tighter. "The others, cold. Not like you." Her words puzzled him. "Others? What others?" Daniel tried to ask, but the girl suddenly coughed. He noticed how thin she was, her ribs pressing against her skin. Hunger, exhaustion. It was written all over her. With a sigh, he dug into his pack. He had only a few rations left, not enough for a long journey. But the way she stared at the food with wide eyes made his choice easy. He broke a piece of dried bread and handed it to her. She snatched it quickly, as if afraid he would change his mind, and began nibbling with tiny bites. Each chew was careful, like every crumb mattered. Daniel watched quietly, his soldier's instincts whispering warnings. Feeding a stranger was dangerous. Feeding an alien child in the middle of enemy territory was suicide. And yet, he didn't stop. When she finished, she looked at him again. Her eyes were large and unblinking. "You, not like them," she said softly. "Not like who?" Daniel asked. Her small fingers traced the old scars on her wrists. "The ones who caught me, the ones who laughed." The words chilled him. She had been a prisoner, maybe still being hunted. He leaned closer. "Who are they? Are they coming?" Instead of answering, she tilted her head. "Why don't you fear me?" Daniel frowned. "You're just a girl." "Why would I?" Her lips trembled, but not from fear. "Because I am cursed." Daniel almost laughed. He had heard plenty of superstitions in his life, but there was something in her voice, something that wasn't childish fantasy. She believed it. Before he could say anything more, a sudden snap echoed in the distance. Daniel's head shot up. The girl flinched, clutching his sleeve again. He motioned for silence, every muscle in his body tightening. The forest fell quiet. Too quiet. He rose slowly, keeping her behind him. His eyes scanned the trees, his ears sharp. For a moment he thought he saw a shadow moving between the trunks, too fast, too silent. Then it was gone. The girl whispered, trembling, "They're close." Daniel crouched beside her. "Who? Hunters?" Her eyes filled with tears. She nodded. They don't stop, they never stop, they will take me back. Daniel clenched his jaw. He hated this feeling, the same one he'd felt on battlefields seeing civilians trapped with no one to defend them. He wasn't supposed to care. He wasn't supposed to get involved. He had his own mission, his own survival to worry about, and yet here she was, holding his arm, trusting him without fear. He whispered harshly, "Why me? Why trust me?" She met his eyes with a quiet strength. "Because when you looked at me, you did not see chains. You saw me." Her words struck him deeper than he expected. Daniel exhaled slowly, forcing himself to stay calm. "All right, little one. Then listen carefully. If they come, you stay behind me. Understand?" Her lips trembled, but she nodded. "I will not run. Not if you stand." Daniel almost cursed under his breath. What had he gotten himself into? The jungle around them stayed silent, but the feeling of being watched did not fade. Daniel lit a small fire, pretending to be calm, but his eyes never stopped scanning the tree line. The girl sat close beside him, unafraid, as if his presence alone was enough to keep the monsters away. He thought of her words again. Cursed, abandoned, hunted, and yet she did not fear him. She feared everyone else, but not the human soldier, sitting beside her. As the fire crackled, Daniel tightened his grip on his weapon. He didn't know what was coming, but he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't just walk away. The girl had chosen him, and whether he liked it or not, he would have to choose her too. Above them, hidden in the branches, another shadow moved. The hunters were closer than he realized, and the next night would not be peaceful. The night returned heavy and silent, but Daniel could not rest. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt the weight of unseen eyes pressing against him from the forest. The tiny alien girl lay curled close beside him, her breathing steady, but her grip on his sleeve told another story. Even in sleep she held on, as if letting go meant falling into darkness. Daniel stared at the stars through the canopy. The fire beside him had died into faint red coals, sending up little wisps of smoke. The jungle seemed alive with whispers, not loud enough to be words, but always at the edge of hearing. He told himself it was the wind, but deep inside, he wasn't sure. Then it came. A faint voice brushed against his ears. Not spoken, not heard, felt, human. Daniel sat upright instantly, knife in hand. He scanned the shadows. No one. No movement. Just the girl still asleep. He tightened his grip on the weapon. "Who's there?" he hissed. No answer. Just the endless hum of insects. He was about to sit down when the voice came again. Softer. Closer. Inside his head. "Give her back. She belongs to us." Daniel's skin turned cold. His soldier's instinct screamed trap. He leaned forward, his eyes darting everywhere. "You want her? Then come for her." He growled under his breath. But the forest did not answer. Instead, the girl whimpered in her sleep. She whispered words too soft to understand. Daniel leaned closer. Her face twisted, her eyes squeezed shut, and tears slipped down her cheeks. Don't take me. Please," she mumbled. Daniel felt a stab in his chest. She wasn't just dreaming. She was reliving something. He touched her shoulder gently. "Hey, wake up." She flinched violently, gasping awake. Her glowing violet eyes shot open, wide with terror. For a second, she didn't even recognize him. Then, seeing his face, her breathing slowed. "They were here," she whispered, voice shaking. Daniel frowned. "Who?" "The ones who whisper in the dark. The hunters." Her lips trembled. "They speak without voices. They never stop calling me." Daniel's jaw tightened. He realized the whispers he had heard weren't his imagination. They were reaching for her, and somehow he had heard them too. He tried to push down the shiver crawling up his spine. "They want you back," she nodded, clutching her knees. "Because I escaped. But I was not supposed to. I was property. The Word hit him like a blade. Property. She wasn't just abandoned. She was owned. Daniel's mind flashed back to the scars on her wrists. Shackles. Chains. Her small body marked by captivity. And yet, despite all of that, she was here, unafraid of him. He knelt down, looking her in the eyes. Listen, you're not going back. Not while I'm here. She stared at him as if she didn't believe it, as if no one had ever said those words to her before. Her lips quivered. You will fight them? Daniel didn't answer with words. He held up his knife, steel catching the faint glow of the dying fire. I've fought worse, he said. The girl blinked at him, then, for the first time, gave a small laugh, weak but real. You are strange, human. Others run from them, you do not. Daniel smirked. Maybe I don't know when to run. But deep down, he knew it wasn't that simple. If the whispers could reach his mind, they were more than just hunters. They were predators who played with fear. And if they wanted the girl so badly, it meant she wasn't ordinary. Hours passed slowly. Daniel stayed awake, listening. Every so often the whispers returned, pressing at his thoughts. She is ours. Give her back. He clenched his fists, pushing the voices away, but each time they grew stronger. The girl leaned against him, whispering softly. They cannot take me if you stay close. You block them. Daniel stiffened. Me? How? Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Because you are not like them. You are different. Your mind is strong. Your heart is loud. Daniel didn't understand, but he saw the trust in her eyes. She wasn't afraid, not of him, not of the darkness, not even of the voices. Her only fear was being taken away again, and that thought made Daniel's blood boil. Suddenly a branch snapped in the distance. Not imagination, real. Daniel rose instantly, pulling the girl behind him. His eyes narrowed as he scanned the tree line. There, a faint glimmer, metal, a figure half hidden in the brush. Hunters. The girl gasped, clutching his arm. They've found us. Daniel's grip tightened on his knife. He felt his heart hammering, but his voice stayed calm. Then they made a mistake. The shadows moved again, closer this time. Not just one figure, many. Daniel stood firm, the tiny alien girl trembling at his side. The whispers grew louder, echoing in his skull like a storm. Ours. Ours. She is ours. But he forced a smile, sharp and defiant. Come take her then. The jungle waited, holding its breath. The night of whispers had become a night of hunters, and Daniel knew this was only the beginning. The jungle was no longer silent. Every leaf seemed to tremble. Every shadow seemed alive. Daniel stood tall with his knife in hand, his eyes locked on the darkness where shapes moved. The alien girl clung to his arm, her small body pressed tightly against him. He could feel her fear through the way her fingers dug into his sleeve. But her voice was steady when she whispered, "They are here." Daniel gave a small nod. I know. The whispers in his head grew louder. Give her back. Give her back. The words felt like claws scraping against his skull. He gritted his teeth, forcing them away. He had been trained to fight soldiers, monsters, even machines of war, but never shadows that could reach into his mind. From the tree line, the first, Hunter stepped forward, tall, thin. His armor was made of bone and dark metal, his eyes glowing faint blue under the mask. He carried a spear that hummed with energy, its blade sharper than glass. Two more appeared beside him, their steps too silent for their size. Daniel counted at least 4 in the trees, maybe more. The girl gasped. They will not stop. They want me alive. Daniel's grip tightened on his knife. Then they'll have to go through me. The lead hunter tilted his head, the voice inside Daniel's skull growing louder. Human, step aside. This is not your fight. Daniel smirked, coldly. It is now. The hunter moved fast, faster than Daniel expected. One moment he was still, the next he lunged forward with the spear straight for Daniel's chest. Daniel twisted aside, grabbing the girl and shoving her behind him. The spear missed by inches, slicing a tree trunk in half. Sparks lit the air. Where it touched, Daniel slashed with his knife, but the hunter blocked easily with his spear's shaft. The sound echoed like steel on steel. 2 more hunters circled in from the sides. Their movements were like shadows dancing, silent and deadly. The girl cried out, "Behind you!" Daniel spun, just in time to block another strike. He grunted. Under the force, his knife nearly knocked from his hand. He wasn't fighting animals, these were trained killers. But he had something they didn't. Rage. He ducked low, sweeping his leg into one hunter's knee. The creature stumbled, giving Daniel the opening to slam his elbow into its chest. It fell back with a hiss. The girl screamed as another hunter lunged at her. Without thinking, Daniel threw his knife like a dart. The blade hit the creature's shoulder, making it stagger back. "Stay down," he shouted to her. He rushed forward, grabbing the spear from the stunned hunter on the ground. The weapon buzzed in his grip, alive with strange power. He spun it once, testing the weight, then pointed it at the others. The hunters hissed, their whispers turning to growls inside his head. "You cannot protect her. You are nothing." Daniel spat on the ground. "Funny. Nothing just stole your toy." With a roar, the lead hunter charged again. Their spears clashed, sparks lighting up the clearing. Daniel fought with every ounce of strength, every skill drilled into him from years of survival. But these hunters were relentless, attacking, in pairs, their strikes faster than lightning. He blocked, parried, struck back. His arms ached, his breath came heavy, but he didn't fall. Not yet. The girl watched, tears streaming down her face, whispering to herself, "Please don't fall. Please." The whispers in Daniel's head turned desperate. "Leave her. She is cursed. She will bring death to you." He gritted his teeth. "Better men have tried to kill me." With a sudden strike, he slammed the spear into the chest of one hunter, sending it crashing into a tree. The impact cracked the trunk and the creature didn't rise again. The others paused, hissing louder, their whispers now filled with anger. Daniel pointed the glowing spear at them. "Your move." But then, the girl cried out, "More, in the trees." Daniel looked up. She was right. Dozens of faint eyes glowed in the canopy above. The hunters weren't just a few, they were many. The jungle itself seemed to come alive with them. For the first time, Daniel felt a chill of doubt. He could fight 1, 2, maybe even 5. But dozens, not with just a knife and a stolen spear. The girl tugged at him, her voice urgent. "We must run." Daniel hesitated, his pride screaming to stand and fight. But he wasn't a fool. If he fell, she would be dragged back into chains. He grabbed her hand. "Stay close." Together they dashed through the jungle, branches slashing at their skin, roots catching at their feet. Behind them, the hunters' whispers grew louder, furious, filling the night with echoing rage. The girl stumbled, but Daniel scooped her, up without slowing. His legs burned, his lungs screamed, but he didn't stop. Not until the whispers began to fade behind them. Not until the glowing eyes vanished from the trees. Finally, he dropped to his knees in a hidden hollow between roots. The girl still in his arms. His chest heaved, sweat dripping down his face. The girl looked at him, her eyes wide with something he hadn't seen before. Hope. "You fought them," she whispered. "No one fights them." Daniel gave a tired grin. Well, now someone does. But even as he said it, he knew this was far from over. The hunters would return, and next time they wouldn't stop until either he was dead or she was theirs. The forest was silent again, but it was not a peaceful silence. Daniel sat with his back pressed against the roots of an enormous tree, his chest rising and falling in heavy breaths. The stolen spear still rested across his lap, its faint glow flickering like a dying flame. Beside him, the tiny alien girl sat curled up, her knees to her chest, her glowing eyes wide. They had escaped. For now. Daniel stared at her, trying to calm his own pounding heartbeat. She was trembling, but not from fear of him. In fact, her small hand was still clutched around his sleeve, refusing to let go. "You're safe," he muttered, though his voice sounded more tired than certain. "They're not here. Not yet." The girl turned her face up toward him. Moonlight broke through the leaves and touched her silver-blue hair, making it shimmer faintly. She whispered, "You fought them. For me." Daniel shrugged, trying to act casual though his muscles ached. "Didn't have much choice, did I? They wanted you, and I don't like people telling me what to do." Her lips trembled into something like a smile. "No one ever fought for me." Daniel's throat tightened at the way she said it. He wanted to ask 100 questions. Who she really was, why she was hunted, what cursed meant. But her eyes looked so fragile he couldn't push her now. Instead, he leaned his head back against the tree. "You need rest," he said firmly. But she shook her head. "If I sleep, they come back." The whispers. Her hands clutched tighter to his sleeve. "Stay awake with me." Daniel sighed. He was exhausted, but he couldn't refuse. He adjusted his pack, shifting so she could lean against him more comfortably. The girl immediately pressed closer, her small frame fitting under his arm like she belonged there. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sounds were the distant hum of the jungle and the soft crackle of the spear's fading energy. Then she whispered, almost too soft to hear, "What is your name?" Daniel blinked. He had forgotten that until now she didn't even know. "Daniel," he said. Her lips formed the word carefully as if tasting it. "Danielle." Then her glowing eyes met his. "I am Lyra." Daniel nodded slowly. "Lyra. All right. That makes us even." She tilted her head. "Even? You know my name, I know yours. That means we trust each other." Her small smile widened just a little, fragile but real. "Trust," she repeated. "Yes. Trust." For Daniel, it was a simple exchange, but for her, it seemed like something bigger. As the night deepened, Daniel told her about Earth, about wide oceans that stretched farther than the eye could see, about forests of green taller than towers, about snow that fell from the sky and melted on your tongue. She listened with wide eyes, her breathing soft and steady. "Your world sounds gentle," she whispered. Daniel chuckled dryly. "Gentle? Not always. It's tough. But compared to here, yeah, maybe it is." Her fingers toyed with the edge of his sleeve. "I would like to see it." Daniel looked down at her. He wanted to say maybe one day, but something in her eyes made him stop. Instead, he said, "Then you will." Her lips parted in surprise. "You mean it?" "Yeah," Daniel said, though he wasn't sure how. "I'll get you there. Somehow." For the first time since he'd met her, Lyra laughed. It was a small sound, weak but bright. And in that laugh, Daniel felt something shift inside him. He had fought wars, lost comrades, buried hope too many times. But this girl, this fragile, hunted child, made him remember why he had ever picked up a weapon in the first place, not for orders, not for medals, but for someone who needed him. Hours passed. The fire had died completely, leaving them in shadows. Lyra leaned against him, her head resting lightly on his chest. Slowly, her trembling stopped. She finally slept, her breathing even and calm. Daniel stayed awake, staring into the dark. The whispers hadn't returned. Not yet. Maybe his presence really did block them. Or maybe the hunters were planning something worse. But as he looked down at the girl sleeping against him, he knew one thing with certainty. He could not leave her. The bond was forged, whether he wanted it or not. His hand tightened on the glowing spear. If the hunters came again, he would fight them all. Not because he had to, but because she had chosen him, and he had chosen her. The jungle stirred with a faint breeze, carrying the sound of distant footsteps. Daniel's eyes narrowed. He whispered, under his breath, "Let them come. I'm not letting you go, Lyra. And in the silence of the night, the tiny alien girl shifted in her sleep, her small hand tightening around his sleeve, as if even in dreams, she trusted him completely. The morning sun crept through the jungle canopy, painting everything gold and green. Daniel stretched his stiff arms, his body sore from the night before. Lyra was already awake, sitting cross-legged a few steps away, her silver-blue hair glowing faintly in the sunlight. She was humming softly, a sound almost too delicate to belong in such a wild, dangerous place. Daniel rubbed his face. "You're up early." She turned, smiling faintly. "I don't need much sleep, not anymore." He frowned at her words, but before he could ask, his stomach growled. Lyra tilted her head listening, then giggled quietly. "The great warrior is hungry?" Daniel chuckled. "Yeah, well, warriors need food too." He shared the last of his rations with her. She ate carefully, still taking small bites as though she wasn't used to plenty. The way she ate reminded Daniel again of how fragile she looked, but deep down he knew there was more to her. After breakfast, he finally asked the question that had been burning inside him since the night of whispers. "Lyra, why are they after you?" Her smile faded. She looked down at her hands, her small fingers tracing the old scars on her wrists. For a long moment she didn't answer. Daniel almost thought she wouldn't. Then she whispered, "Because of what I am." Daniel leaned forward. "And what are you?" Her violet eyes lifted to his. In the daylight they glowed even brighter, like twin jewels burning with hidden light. "I am heir, bloodline of the old throne." Daniel blinked. "Throne?" She nodded slowly. "My people once ruled many worlds, but now our family is broken. They want me because if I live, I am proof. If I die, no one will remember." Daniel's chest tightened. So that was it. She wasn't just a runaway child, she was a princess. "That explains the hunters," he muttered. "They're not just guards, they're executioners." Lyra hugged her knees, trembling. "They say I am cursed, that my blood brings ruin. That is why even my own people left me." Daniel stared at her, stunned. A child abandoned by her own bloodline hunted across the stars like prey. His fists clenched against the dirt. He hated people who used words like curse to hide their own cruelty. "You're not cursed," he said firmly. "You're alive. That's what they're afraid of." Her wide eyes searched his face. "You believe that?" Daniel leaned closer. "I've seen curses. Real ones. And you? You're not one. You're just a kid who deserves a chance." Her lips trembled into the faintest smile, but her voice still shook. "If I stay with you, they will kill you too." Daniel smirked. "They already tried. Didn't work out so well, did it?" For the first time, Lyra laughed without fear. It was soft, but it filled the space between them like sunlight. But their peace didn't last long. The jungle shifted again. Birds took flight, scattering from the canopy. Daniel's hand went to the stolen spear. His body stiffened. He knew that sound. It meant movement, organized movement. Lyra's face paled. "They're close again." Daniel rose to his feet. "Let them come. I'll put another one of them into the dirt." But then she shook her head. "No. This time, more. Many more. They will not stop. You cannot fight them all." Daniel didn't like hearing the truth from her lips, but he knew she wasn't wrong. One man against a pack of hunters wouldn't last forever. He crouched beside her. "Then what do we do?" She hesitated. Her small hands curled into fists. Then, almost reluctantly, she whispered, "There is something I can do, but you will see what I really am." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Her violet eyes met his, full of fear, but also trust. "The curse, the thing they fear. It's inside me. Power that should not exist. If I use it, you will know the truth." Daniel held her gaze steady. "Lyra, look at me. Whatever you have, whatever they call it, it doesn't change who you are. Understand?" Her lips parted, eyes wide. No one had ever said those words to her before. Slowly she nodded. The forest floor trembled as shadows drew near. The hunters were moving quickly now, their voices whispering louder in Daniel's skull. "She is ours. She cannot escape. Give her to us." Daniel gritted his teeth, gripping the spear tighter. But when he looked at Lyra, her small body was glowing faintly, a soft violet light spilling from her skin. Her hair lifted as if touched by invisible wind. Her eyes blazed brighter than ever before. Daniel froze, stunned. She wasn't just a girl. She was something more, something powerful. Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. "This is why they call me cursed. Because I can burn their minds. Because I can tear their whispers apart." The air around them shook with invisible energy, like the pulse of thunder without sound. The trees swayed though no wind blew. Daniel's chest tightened, but not with fear, with awe. "Then do it," he said. "Show them why they should have left you alone." Lyra looked at him, searching his face. "And you won't fear me?" Daniel leaned close, his voice steady. Not for a second. The hunters broke into the clearing, their armor gleaming, their spears raised. But they stopped when they saw her standing there, glowing like a star in the dark. Lyra's voice rang out, stronger than Daniel had ever heard. "I am not your property." The ground itself seemed to tremble. The hunters hesitated, whispers breaking into static in Daniel's head. And for the first time, Daniel saw something he never expected in those creatures' eyes. Fear. The clearing glowed with violet light. Lyra stood in the center, her silver-blue hair rising as if lifted by an invisible storm, her eyes burning bright. Daniel had seen many things in his life, armored war beasts, alien machines that could level cities, but nothing like this small girl shining like a star in the middle of the jungle. The hunters froze. Their whispers filled the air louder than ever. "Cursed! She is cursed! Take her! Destroy her!" But for the first time, Daniel could hear something else in their voices. Not power, not control. Fear. Lyra raised her trembling hands. The light around her pulsed, shaking the ground. The whispers in Daniel's mind cracked as though chains were breaking. The hunters staggered, clutching their heads, their glowing eyes flickering like broken lanterns. Daniel's grip tightened on the stolen spear. He stepped forward, standing beside her. "Lyra, you're not alone. Let's finish this together." She glanced at him, her face glowing with both power and uncertainty. "But if I use this, you'll see what I really am." Daniel smirked. "I already see you, and you're just a kid who deserves to be free. Now do it." Her eyes softened, and then the light around her exploded outward like a wave. The hunters screamed. Their whispers turned into distorted cries. Some collapsed, their spears clattering to the ground. Others stumbled back into the shadows, retreating into the jungle. The power that had once made her a prisoner was now their nightmare. But more kept coming. Dozens poured from the trees, their voices twisting the air. Daniel raised the spear and roared, charging forward. He struck the first hunter in the chest, knocking it down, then spun to slash another across the mask. Sparks flew, and the jungle filled with the clash of weapons and the crackle of energy. "Stay behind me," he shouted, but Lyra shook her head. "No, beside you." Her voice echoed with strength. She lifted her glowing hands again, sending arcs of violet light through the trees. Hunters screamed as the energy ripped through their whispers, silencing them one by one. Daniel fought like a man possessed. Every strike was for her. Every breath was for the promise he had made. No one would take her, not while he still stood. A hunter lunged at his back, but Lyra's power struck it down before the spear could reach him. He glanced at her, and she smiled through her tears. "I told you I will not run if you stand." Daniel grinned fiercely. "Then let's show them." Together they fought. Human and alien child, side by side. The hunters fell one after another, their whispers fading into silence. The jungle shook with the storm of their defiance. At last, only one remained. The leader, taller than the rest, its armor etched with cruel symbols. Its voice pierced Daniel's mind like a knife. She is cursed. She will bring death to you, human. Give her to me and you may live. Daniel spat blood onto the ground. I've heard worse lies. The leader raised its spear, energy crackling along the blade. Lyra's light flared brighter, but her body swayed with exhaustion. Daniel stepped forward, planting himself firmly in front of her. If you want her, he growled, you'll have to kill me first. The leader hissed and charged. Time slowed. Daniel braced himself, gripping the stolen spear with both hands. The impact was brutal, the two weapons clashing, sparks exploding in the dark. The force drove Daniel to his knees, but he held firm, teeth clenched. Then, from behind him, Lyra's voice rose like a bell. You will not take me. Her power surged one final time, pouring into Daniel like a second heartbeat. His muscles burned, his vision blurred, but he felt strength beyond his own. With a roar, he shoved the leader's spear aside and drove his own straight through its chest. The creature shrieked, its glowing eyes flickering out. It collapsed into the dirt. Lifeless. Silence fell. The whispers were gone. The hunters were gone. Daniel collapsed to one knee, gasping for air. Lyra stumbled to his side, her light fading, her body trembling. For a moment she looked afraid again, like a child who had shown too much. Now you know, she whispered. Now you see the curse. Daniel reached out and pulled her close, wrapping an arm around her trembling frame. Curse? No. You just saved us both. Her eyes filled with tears. You don't fear me? Daniel shook his head. Not for a second. For a long moment, they stayed there in the quiet clearing, the jungle slowly returning to its normal hum. Lyra leaned into him, her small hand gripping his shirt. She whispered, You're my family now. Daniel closed his eyes, holding her tighter. He had never expected this, never expected to find hope in a place like this. But now, with this fragile girl who had chosen him, he finally felt a reason to fight again. Above them, the stars burned faintly through the canopy. Somewhere out there, more enemies might come. More battles might wait. But tonight, they had stood together. Tonight, a bond had been forged in fire and blood. And tonight, a tiny alien girl and a tired human had won.